Sometimes people don't realize what they had until it's gone. They take your love, patience, and kindness for granted, thinking it will always be there. But life has a way of balancing scales. Karma always finds the one who underestimated your worth, and their lessons come when you're already thriving without them. Every action has a consequence, even when someone doesn't see it at the moment. What goes around comes back around, and that's the law of karma, subtle, unavoidable, and deeply precise. When someone takes you for granted, when they fail to appreciate the effort, love, and energy you put into a relationship, they may think there are no immediate consequences. They may feel comfortable in their neglect, confident that your presence is endless and that your forgiveness is unlimited. But the universe has a way of balancing things, and every choice they make sets into motion a ripple that will eventually return to them. Karma isn't about punishment, it's about accountability. It ensures that the impact of our actions eventually reflects back, often in ways that teach the hardest, most unavoidable lessons. People who take others for granted often operate from a place of ego or self-absorption. They assume that love, patience, and understanding are infinite resources that they don't have to reciprocate. They mistake consistency for weakness and generosity for obligation. This creates a false sense of security. They may continue to act carelessly, thinking they can rely on someone else's loyalty and devotion without ever truly giving back. But what they fail to realize is that nothing stays stagnant. Life moves, people grow, and what was once readily available becomes scarce. Your absence, your detachment, or even your silence becomes the reflection of the energy they never honored. Karma simply ensures that the consequences of neglect eventually catch up with those who don't see the value in what they had. The universe often delivers these lessons subtly at first. A lack of attention, missed opportunities, or the quiet distance that forms when you stop giving more than you're receiving all serve as early indicators. At first, they may not notice, they may even continue with their patterns, blind to the fact that their actions are creating a future where they will experience the discomfort of loss. But the absence of what they took for granted begins to echo in their lives. Slowly, situations arise that make them reflect on their choices. They begin to understand, often too late, that the person they overlooked was a rare gift, someone who added value, depth, and care to their life. Karma doesn't rush, it simply ensures balance in its own timing. One of the most powerful aspects of this process is that it happens without any intervention from you. You don't have to try to teach them a lesson, confront them, or make them realize what they lost. Walking away, prioritizing your peace, and focusing on your own growth allows karma to operate naturally. Life has a way of orchestrating experiences that mirror the energy you've given and received. Those who neglected your presence will eventually encounter situations that make them face their mistakes, the moments when they feel the absence of your love, your support, and your attention. It's a subtle, yet undeniable, awakening that forces them to see what they could have cherished but failed to value. Ultimately, karma is not about revenge. It's about natural consequence. It's about the quiet truth that when someone dismisses your worth, life has a way of showing them the value they overlooked. Your patience, generosity, and care were never obligations, they were offerings. And when those offerings are no longer available, the vacuum they leave behind becomes the teacher. Your absence is the message, your growth is the statement, and when they feel the weight of what they let slip away, it's karma doing exactly what it's meant to do, ensuring that they face the reality of their choices while you move forward stronger, wiser, and thriving. You can't force someone to grow or to recognize your value. No matter how much love, patience, or effort you pour into a relationship. That's the truth behind the second keynote. You can't force growth, only release. When someone takes you for granted, Their ego or immaturity often prevents them from seeing the depth of your care. They may act distant, dismissive, or indifferent, and you might find yourself trying to correct, explain, or persuade them to appreciate you. But true growth, emotional awareness, and self-reflection cannot be imposed from the outside. It must happen internally, at their own pace, through their own experiences. Your role isn't to educate them. It's to honor your own value and choose peace over trying to change someone who isn't ready. Walking away is not abandonment, it's an act of liberation. When you stop chasing someone who doesn't see your worth, you create space for both of you to evolve naturally. They are left to confront the consequences of their actions, while you redirect your energy toward your own growth. Releasing someone doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing their inability to value you to dictate your happiness. By letting go, you shift the focus from trying to fix them to prioritizing yourself, and that is where real transformation begins. This release is a form of empowerment because it demonstrates that your peace and self-respect matter more than someone else's ego-driven patterns. There's a profound lesson in detachment. When you stop investing in someone who takes you for granted, you give them the opportunity to reflect on their choices. Ego often blinds people to their mistakes, and only through experiencing the void of your absence do they begin to understand what they lost. That reflection is the essence of karma. It doesn't require your interference. Your release becomes the catalyst for their eventual awakening, but your role is simply to step back and live your life fully. You cannot force insight, remorse, or growth. You can only allow life to do its work while maintaining your dignity and boundaries. Emotional independence is central to this process. When you rely on someone else's acknowledgement or approval for your happiness, you remain tethered to their patterns and their unpredictability. But by choosing release, you reclaim your power. You learn that your worth is inherent, not contingent on someone else's recognition. Growth in this context is about reclaiming your own life and energy, not about trying to reform someone else. You may have invested time, heart, and effort into the relationship, but once you recognize that it cannot flourish without mutual respect and effort, holding on becomes a barrier to your own evolution. True freedom comes from walking away before resentment builds or your energy is depleted. This process also teaches a deeper form of love, one that is self-respecting and discerning. Loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of their ego. True love requires boundaries and the courage to step back when your kindness is taken for granted. It's not about bitterness, it's about clarity. When you release someone, you make room for healthier connections, for experiences that honor your value, and for opportunities that align with your true self. This act of release is both protective and empowering, allowing you to thrive independently of their growth or lack thereof. Ultimately, releasing someone is an acknowledgement that their journey is theirs alone. You cannot force them to evolve, but you can control how you respond to their actions. By letting go, you step into your own power, prioritize your peace, and allow the natural consequences of their behavior to unfold without dragging yourself into the chaos. That's how growth works, not by holding on to someone who cannot see your worth, but by stepping back and living fully, proving through your life that value is recognized and nurtured, not demanded. Silence has a language of its own, and when someone realizes your absence, it speaks louder than any argument, any explanation, or any plea ever could. That's the power of the third keynote. Silence communicates what words often fail to capture. When you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, when you remove your energy from someone who took you for granted, you create a space that they cannot ignore. They may have been comfortable while you were always there, forgiving, patient, and available, but the moment that presence is no longer guaranteed, the the vacuum it leaves is felt deeply. Silence becomes the mirror reflecting the value they overlooked, and ego-driven people are forced to confront the consequences in ways that words alone could never achieve. When someone has taken you for granted, your constant availability often becomes their safety net. They rely on your predictability, your forgiveness, and your love without reciprocating. They may have dismissed your attempts to communicate, thinking you would always return, that your patience was infinite. But when you step back, that pattern is broken. Suddenly, there is no immediate response, no reassurance, no energy to be manipulated or relied upon. That absence sends a message stronger than confrontation. Your presence was never guaranteed, and now it's no longer there. It's in this silence that true realization begins to emerge. They start to see, in the spaces you leave, everything they failed to appreciate: the effort, the loyalty, the understanding, and the love they assumed would always be at their disposal. Silence also has a way of stripping away ego defenses. When you're present and vocal, they can argue, justify, or deflect responsibility. But in your absence, they are left alone with their own reflection. They cannot dismiss the emptiness you leave behind, and they cannot control how your life moves forward without them. Ego-driven people struggle with introspection, but silence forces it. It removes distraction, removes debate, and removes the opportunity to manipulate the narrative. What's left is truth, the undeniable fact that their behavior created the gap between you. That truth is often a more potent teacher than any conversation because it comes from experience, from feeling the real impact of their choices, rather than simply hearing about it. The power of silence is amplified by your own growth during this time. While they are left confronting what they lost, you are actively reclaiming your life. Your energy, focus, and attention are directed toward your own goals, your happiness, and your peace. This contrast makes the lesson even more impactful. They witness, often indirectly, that life continues, and not only does it continue, but it flourishes. Your success, calm, and clarity become a mirror that reflects what they failed to honor. That reflection is painful because it shows them that what they took for granted was irreplaceable. And unlike arguments or confrontations, this lesson cannot be ignored or rationalized away. It is lived, felt, and undeniable. Moreover, silence preserves your dignity and integrity. It demonstrates that you are not willing to lower your standards, chase validation, or beg for recognition. By simply stepping back, you communicate strength, self-respect, and boundaries. You show that love and care are not commodities to be exploited, and that being taken for granted has consequences. Your absence becomes the proof that you valued yourself enough to stop tolerating behavior that diminished your worth. In this way, silence is both a shield and a signal. It protects your energy while delivering the clearest possible message to someone who failed to see it. Ultimately, silence is a tool of empowerment. It allows karma to operate naturally without your intervention. By withdrawing your presence and your energy, you let life reflect back the consequences of their choices. They feel the weight of what they lost, and in that quiet, unspoken space, the lesson lands with undeniable clarity. You don't have to speak, fight, or justify. Your absence, your peace, and your detachment speak volumes. In the end, silence teaches them what words never could, that taking someone for granted has real, unavoidable consequences, and that your value was never theirs to diminish. Regret is a powerful teacher, often arriving long after the ego has had its way. That's the essence of the fourth keynote. Regret is the true teacher. People who take you for granted rarely learn from your attempts to make them see your value while you are still present. They dismiss, deflect, or minimize your efforts, assuming that love, patience, and understanding are endless. But once you step away, once your energy is no longer available for them to consume, They are left facing the emptiness their actions created. It's in this absence, in this space you no longer occupy in their life, that the lesson begins to sink in. And often, regret is the only way an ego-driven person truly understands the cost of their behavior. Regret doesn't always arrive immediately. Ego protects them at first, convincing them that nothing has changed, that they are fine without you, that life will continue as usual. They may distract themselves with activity, new relationships, or social validation, pretending that your absence doesn't matter. But over time, the impact of what they took for granted becomes undeniable. The experiences they once dismissed, the small gestures, the laughter, the emotional intimacy, the support you freely gave, are suddenly missing, and the void becomes impossible to ignore. That absence forces reflection. For someone ruled by ego, reflection is uncomfortable, and discomfort often leads to regret. The nature of regret is that it's deeply personal and inescapable. No one can feel it for them, and no amount of argument or explanation from you could have instilled it while you were still giving. It comes from the lived experience of absence, from the realization that what was taken for granted cannot simply be reclaimed. Your patience, your love, and your care were never obligations. They were gifts, and when those gifts are no longer available, they are missed in ways that words can't replicate. Regret is the natural consequence of failing to value someone while they were still present, and it has a way of settling in quietly, persisting even when distractions attempt to mask it. Regret also forces a confrontation with self. Ego-driven people avoid responsibility, deflect blame, or rationalize their choices to protect their pride. But when confronted with the tangible consequences of their actions, the life they no longer share with you, the energy they can no longer command, the love they cannot recover, they are forced to acknowledge the truth. Regret becomes a mirror reflecting the impact of their negligence, highlighting the moments they could have chosen differently, the words they didn't speak, and the gestures they dismissed. It's a painful, unavoidable, and often humbling realization that their behavior cost them someone rare and irreplaceable. Meanwhile, your life moves forward, and that progress intensifies their awareness. They see, sometimes indirectly, that you are thriving, growing, and moving with purpose without them. That contrast becomes a subtle but relentless teacher. The success, peace, and joy they once ignored now exist in sharp relief against the void they created by taking you for granted. Regret doesn't need to be shouted. It's felt in every reminder that they no longer have access to what they failed to nurture. And unlike arguments or confrontations, which can be ignored or denied, this lesson is lived. It is experienced daily, and it is inescapable. Ultimately, regret is karma in motion. It is the universe's way of ensuring that someone who dismissed your worth experiences the consequences of their choices. Your absence, your peace, and your ongoing growth are the mechanisms through which that lesson is delivered. You don't have to orchestrate it, argue, or demand acknowledgement. Regret will find its way to them naturally, and it will teach more effectively than any conversation ever could. In this way, the fourth keynote demonstrates that the real power of karma lies not in punishment, but in the awakening that comes when someone finally realizes what they let slip through their fingers. Every step you take toward your own growth and happiness becomes a mirror for the person who took you for granted. That's the essence of the fifth keynote. Your growth becomes their reflection. While they may have ignored your value, failed to acknowledge your efforts, or dismissed your care, your life continues to move forward. Every success you achieve, every smile that comes naturally, every moment of peace you claim without their interference becomes a living testament to what they lost. They begin to see the contrast between their own stagnation and the life you are actively building, and that reflection is often more powerful than any words or arguments ever could be. When someone fails to appreciate you, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to prove yourself to them. Ego whispers that if they could only see your worth, they would recognize their mistakes, but true empowerment comes from shifting the focus inward. Your growth, your confidence, and your joy are not performative. They are authentic extensions of your energy, self-respect, and intentional living. By investing in yourself, you show them what they failed to value, not through confrontation, but through presence. They are left to confront the reality that someone they took for granted is thriving without them, and that realization cuts deeper than any argument could. Growth has a subtle, undeniable impact on those who dismissed you. When you prioritize your peace, set boundaries, and pursue your passions, you radiate a form of strength that cannot be ignored. It's not about seeking revenge. It's about living in alignment with your worth. Every time they notice your progress, whether consciously or unconsciously, they are reminded of the moments they overlooked or dismissed. The opportunities they had to engage with someone genuine and loyal are now replaced by absence, and your success emphasizes that it was never about them controlling your happiness. Karma works quietly, and your growth is one of its most effective tools. There's also a psychological component to this reflection. Humans are wired to notice contrasts. When someone who once centered their life around another person now flourishes independently, it challenges their ego. They see that love, effort, and loyalty are not guaranteed commodities. They are choices freely given, and when ignored, those choices are no longer available. Your life becomes evidence of their oversight. Every achievement, every moment of contentment, every step you take toward a more empowered, fulfilled self reminds them that the person they dismissed was someone worth treasuring. That reflection is unavoidable, and it is one of the most poignant forms of karma. Your growth also reinforces your own self-worth. As you thrive, you no longer question your value or try to justify your efforts to someone who didn't appreciate them. The contrast between their loss and your success isn't meant to punish them. It's a natural consequence that reinforces your boundaries and choices. You are not responsible for making them see your value. You are responsible for living in a way that honors it. That distinction is liberating because it removes the burden of chasing validation and replaces it with the satisfaction of authentic, intentional living. Ultimately, your growth teaches a silent but undeniable lesson. Taking someone for granted has consequences, and those consequences are reflected back in your flourishing life. They may never admit it. They may try to rationalize or distract themselves, but the contrast is undeniable. Every step you take towards self-improvement, every moment of joy, every achievement in your life serves as a mirror of what they lost. That is the essence of karma, the quiet, unstoppable truth that the universe ensures balance, not through revenge, but through the reflection of choices and consequences. And through it all, you continue moving forward, stronger, wiser, and fully aware that your growth is proof of your value, whether or not they ever recognize it. The most profound form of karma isn't revenge or punishment, it's the life you build after someone took you for granted. That's the essence of the sixth keynote. Peace is the ultimate payback. When someone fails to recognize your worth, the natural response is not to dwell in bitterness, not to obsess over what they lost, but to focus on your own growth, your own happiness, and your own freedom. Your peace becomes a reflection of your strength, a mirror that shows them the true cost of their actions without a single word. It's a quiet, undeniable power that proves living well is the most effective and lasting form of karma. Peace carries a magnetic authority because it is rooted in self-respect. When you stop chasing someone who consistently took you for granted, you step into your own life fully. You no longer allow their choices, their ego, or their lack of appreciation to dictate your emotions or your worth. Instead, you focus on nurturing yourself, investing in your passions, and surrounding yourself with people who value and uplift you. This shift is subtle, yet it's devastatingly clear to anyone who failed to recognize your value. They begin to feel, often too late, the weight of what they let slip through their fingers. Your peace becomes a quiet teacher, showing them what they lost not through confrontation, but simply through your absence and your thriving life. There's a profound satisfaction in knowing that your happiness and contentment do not depend on their recognition. You've taken back your energy, your time, and your emotional investment, and you've redirected it toward yourself. That's a form of power that ego-driven people cannot compete with. They may try to fill the void with distractions, attention from others, or superficial achievements, but nothing can replicate the authenticity of someone who has reclaimed their peace. Your life lived intentionally and with integrity demonstrates that what they once had was rare, and that losing it carries consequences far more meaningful than any argument or confrontation could ever communicate. The beauty of this form of karma is that it's self-sustaining. You don't have to orchestrate it or seek retribution. It unfolds naturally as you live your life fully. Every success you achieve, every moment of calm you experience, every joy that comes to you without their interference is a reminder to them of what they failed to honor. And while they may never admit it, every time they witness your life moving forward without them, they feel the absence of what they once had. This is karma in its purest form, not vengeance, but a living, breathing reflection of the choices they made and the love they neglected. Maintaining your peace also prevents you from being drawn back into patterns that diminish your value. By prioritizing your well-being and refusing to tolerate disrespect or neglect, you ensure that your energy is protected. Peace is not passive. It is active self-preservation, clarity, and wisdom. It's the ultimate statement that you will no longer allow someone else's ego to control your emotions, your worth, or your life trajectory. Every boundary you uphold, every moment you refuse to chase, reinforces the lesson that they cannot take what is freely given for granted. Ultimately, peace is the most satisfying form of karma because it affirms your worth without requiring their acknowledgement. It proves that you were never diminished by their inability to appreciate you. While they grapple with the consequences of their actions, you thrive, grounded in self-respect, emotional clarity, and the freedom to live life fully. Karma doesn't need to shout. It simply manifests in the quiet power of your life moving forward, showing them the true cost of taking someone extraordinary for granted. And in that, your peace is not just a gift to yourself, it's the ultimate payback they can't escape. A living reminder that love, respect, and value cannot be forced, only honored. Karma isn't about revenge, it's about balance. The one who took you for granted will eventually feel the weight of what they lost, while you move forward, thriving, at peace, and fully aware of your worth. Your life, your growth, and your happiness are the true payback, and that's a victory no ego can ever take away.